despite multiple strikes by Russia on the eastern Ukrainian city of Dnipro, and the situation is rather confused. The big question, what was it? Ukraine initially saying it was an ICBM strike, and President Zelensky just reinforcing that in the last few minutes, but they're still assessing. ICBMs have never been used in combat before and are nuclear capable, but this wasn't a nuclear strike, and a Western official also saying they didn't think it was an ICBM, but many agreeing that they haven't seen a strike like this before. The Kremlin refusing to comment.
Алло. Да, у меня брифинг.
Я боюсь, Маша, удар баллистическими ракетами, о чем Запад не стали говорить, не комментирую вообще.
Да, хорошо, спасибо.
While Congress scurries about, bickering over a dude in a dress taking a leak in the women's bathroom.
Here she goes. Here's Congresswoman Mace. Congresswoman Mace, can I ask you a question as you walk here?
I will stand in the brink and stand in the way of anyone on the radical left who thinks that it's okay for a penis to be in a women's locker room or a bathroom or a changing room. Hell no.
And the Democrats stick their fingers in their ears as President-elect Donald Trump prepares his cabinet to enact sweeping reforms in the marble halls of the District of Criminals.
But the question about this notion of some mandate to make massive far-right extreme policy changes, it doesn't exist. It doesn't exist.
Still, what should be a scramble and a massive roar by those with the power to protect humanity continues to be just a tiny little whimper.
Hello, everybody. I just want to make a statement for all of you here and be very clear. A man is a man, and a woman is a woman, and a man cannot become a woman.
Meanwhile, lame duck New World Order minion White House freeloader Joe Biden, during the final moments of the worst presidency in American history, has set into motion World War III without congressional approval in a last-ditch effort to avoid the reckoning that is coming for his family, his cronies, and himself. An immediate, impeachable offense Biden may or may not be well aware of.
But I want to ask you about something you've been involved with. You said that if the President of the United States had launched an attack on Iran without congressional approval, that would have been an impeachable offense. Do you want to review Absolutely. That comment you made?
The President has no constitutional authority to take this nation to war against a country of 70 million people unless we're attacked or unless there is proof that we are about to be attacked. And if he does, I would move to impeach him. The House obviously has to do that, but I would lead an effort to impeach him. The reason for my doing that, I don't say it lightly. I say it because they should understand that what they were threatening, what they were saying, what was adding up to be, what looked like to the rest of the world what we're about to do, would be the most disastrous thing that could be done at this moment in our history that I can think of.
That Ukraine has actually now fired these American-made Attack-M ballistic missiles into Russia. President Biden, of course, lifting restrictions on where the weapons can be used. But as you say, this morning, Vladimir Putin appearing to threaten to use nuclear weapons if these were used. But Ukraine seeming to call his bluff, firing 6 missiles into an ammunition storage warehouse in the Bryansk region of Russia. Russia claiming that it intercepted 5 of these missiles.
Great Britain's Storm Shadow and Scalp missiles have been raining down on Russia as well. Russia's nuclear doctrine now includes scenarios where an attack from a non-nuclear state, if backed by nuclear power, could be treated as a joint assault on Russia. This means that if a country not possessing nuclear weapons attacks Russia with conventional means, but with support from a nuclear-armed ally, Russia might consider this as grounds for nuclear retaliation.
As I look at what they're doing, and we watch their strategic forces, very carefully. I don't see a change in their strategic force posture, and so we'll continue to remain vigilant in this regard. But at this point, no, I don't see an indication that there's an imminent intent to use nuclear weapons.
The Danish Navy has confirmed that it is investigating the cutting of 2 undersea communication cables in the Baltic Sea with a Chinese cargo ship, Yipeng 3, suspected of being involved. According to reports in Eurasia Daily and Defense 24, the Danish Navy has boarded and detained the Chinese bulk carrier Yipeng 3 in the Danish Straits near the exit of the Great Belt. The Mockingbird media has, of course, ignored all of the warning signs. North Korea recently blew up the roads to South Korea. Chinese President Xi has been shouting war from the rooftops for months, and Russia has, of course, updated its nuclear doctrine. We need emergency hearings today, right now, 5 minutes ago.
For a man who's backed in the corner, a man who is a bloodthirsty killer, you don't keep backing him into a corner. Or what happens? Eventually, he says, I'll have absolutely no credibility, and his people who have just been bombed with U.S. missiles, which he just said 2 days ago, will be an act of war, has got to say, you know what? The worst thing I can do is not act because I'll lose all credibility in my own country and throughout the rest of the world. We have entered a moment of madness.
The Constitution is being muzzled by an incapacitated president that the 25th Amendment was written for. And Vice President Kamala Harris has colluded in this breach of the power of the executive office. These puppets aren't even speaking to the Russians on a cold hotline that hasn't been used in at least 2 years. Call your congressman or senator and tell them to wake the hell up at 202-224-3121. Tell them that you want Joe Biden and Kamala Harris immediately impeached under the 25th Amendment for their collaboration in starting global thermonuclear war without congressional approval. John Bound reporting.
All right, hello and welcome. It's Doug Diamond. You've reached another Diamond Report Live. Happy to be here again. How about that report? I thought that was another really good one from John Bound. Yes, in fake President Biden's own words, a president has no constitutional authority to take this country to war without congressional approval. And what has he done since he took office? And I do mean he took office. We've been at war ever since, right? And now we've got an old man with his finger hovering just millimeters over the big red button. Why is this man still in power? Anyway, hello and welcome. We are on the brink, aren't we? Thermonuclear war. I don't know if it will go worldwide, but everyone has seen how things are gamed out in the various simulations, and it always involves in total war if one nuke is launched. I don't know. I'm not so sure that will actually happen. However, I do think there will be some sort of nuclear exchange. Who knows when? But I hope I'm wrong, of course. However, we do know that the Bible does talk about such things. So we will see where it all goes. But we are in a period of abject insanity, abject nuttiness, and craziness, as Glenn Beck and others in that video talked about. And I don't agree, by the way, with Beck that he thinks that Putin is a bloodthirsty tyrant and all these things. I don't really believe that. He hasn't really done anything, in my opinion, at least not lately, to prove that. And if anything, he's shown vast amounts of restraint in this whole thing with Ukraine. So, yeah, again, we'll see where it goes. But it is not looking good right now. So it's a good week to have Thanksgiving, isn't it? I can't believe we're on the brink of yet another Thanksgiving. And so here we are. We will try and keep those things in mind, as things do not seem to be getting any better. That is for sure. So let's see. Susan's saying my daughter just heard that broadcast and called DC and got a recording that disconnected her. Yeah, I know. I was wondering, actually, when they posted the number there on the screen in the John Bound report, that there's a really good chance that if you get anyone at the switchboard, then they're probably either going to drop your call or you'll just get a recording. and never be able to leave a message. It's my just total guess. I haven't called the number, but you guys are welcome to try. Yeah, Putin appears to be a great leader unless I'm missing something, Emily says. No, I think you're right. He does seem to be someone who actually cares about the people he is leading. And that is one of the reasons the New World Order wants him gone. So anyway, hello and welcome. It's Doug Diamond. You've reached another Diamond Report Live. As I said a little while ago, it's 10:10 p.m. on 11/24/24. Man, that's a lot of sixes, isn't it? 24 and 24. And an 11 in there. So, yep, let's take a look at the news. We've got the Hal Turner Radio Show site pulled up. I like his breaking news, so I usually do start with his site. So the latest article on here, updated 9:20 p.m. Eastern, as of tonight. Abnormal movement of missiles inside Iran. Israel retaliation strike coming, ? Human intel sources inside Iran are relaying word that there is presently a noticeable and abnormal movement of missiles inside Iran. Israel believes an attack upon them by Iran looms. Then update at 7:27 Eastern tonight. This is a quote, we need to be prepared for a change from 0 to 100 at any given moment, the Israeli Major General and spokesman for Israel's Home Front Brigade said. The last time that this guy made such a statement, Iran attacked later that day. An Iranian attack on Israel is imminent, this is saying. And keep in mind, they're quite a few hours ahead of where we are in the U.S. currently. It says abnormal movement of Iranian ballistic missiles is being monitored. That was as of 7:51 Eastern tonight and 9:20 Eastern tonight. The Israeli Air Force has raised its readiness level to the highest. The movement and transportation of heavy ballistic missiles in the western part of the Islamic Republic of Iran is now confirmed and visually verified. Iran is preparing to attack Israel. Then this advisor to Iran's supreme leader says Iran is preparing to respond to the Zionist regime. Iranian foreign minister says Iran has no limits in defending its interests and territorial integrity. No limits, it says. This signals the arrival of True Promise 3. True Promise 3, whatever that is. So, anyway, that's not looking too good. So we have the back and forth with Israel and Iran, and I do believe that Syria will probably be involved at some point, and then, of course, Lebanon, depending on how you pronounce it, and so many other countries over there in the Middle East. Plus, we have the whole Russia and Ukraine NATO situation. So, boy, things are definitely a powder keg at the moment. I thought this one was kind of interesting. I'm sure you guys knew all about this. This is further information here as a follow-up of what happened a few days ago. Of course, this is the hypersonic missile strike that happened earlier. People were all abuzz about this because this has not ever really been used before. And keep in mind that this was really just a test. This was just to show how accurate the Russian missiles are. I wouldn't go as far as to say they were duds, because they did cause an unbelievable amount of mess where they hit. However, they were not nuclear. They were not nuclear tipped MIRVs. And they're called the Oreshnik missile. The Oreshnik is a mid-range projectile that was used a few days ago. So let's look at this. I'm sure you guys saw what happened here. If not, I will briefly recap that, and then we'll go to what the people who witnessed it, who were there in Dnipro, had to say. I think it's kind of interesting. So Medvedev reacts to the video of hypersonic missile strike. Moscow used its brand new Oreshnik mid-range projectile against Ukraine in response to long-range strikes deep inside Russia, which is what happened right before that. Says Medvedev, former Russian president, has shared a video showing the strike on Ukrainian defense industrial facility using Russia's new Oreshnik hypersonic missile system. People were calling it ICBMs. Let's keep talking about this. See what it says. The first reports of Russia carrying out an unusually powerful strike on the industrial complex in Dnipro started to emerge on Thursday. Ukrainian officials suggested that Russia had deployed an ICBM, which was armed with conventional warheads. That was the original reporting. In a post on X, Medvedev, who serves as the deputy chairman of Russia's Security Council, shared CCTV footage of the strike, which was previously released by Ukrainian media. It appears to show several warheads falling on the Ukrainian military plant at night. So that's what you wanted? Well, you've damn well got it, Medvedev wrote. So this is more video here, just more of what we saw. But it doesn't look like it's doing much. However, let's take a look at what some of the people who were right there have to say about what they witnessed. Messages from Dnipro residents after Russian ICBM strike. Of course, he's still calling it an ICBM. It's the Oreshnik, or whatever they're calling it. Messages have been coming in from people who reside in and near Dnipro, Ukraine, describing what it was like during and after the Russian, I'll just say, missile attack. According to the messages, the manufacturing plant that was attacked, it was a industrial giant, the leader in rocket production in the former USSR, so the former Soviet Union. This plant manufactured many space and intercontinental missiles for the USSR. According to messages, the plant no longer exists. In its place, there is now just a mountain of dust. And keep in mind, they were conventional weapons. They were not duds, I don't think, as things were being reported. Some people said they were just duds, showing the accuracy of how these MIRV systems were able to penetrate and hit their exact targets, which I do think that's true, but let's keep reading here. It says, in addition to ground-level workshops where attack drones and rocket engines were currently manufactured, so it was up and operational apparently, the plant had extensive underground workshops where missiles were assembled from Western components, which were stored and then labeled made in Ukraine. They say there were at least 3 subfloors beneath the ground level, each 6 meters high. So it went way down. Now, all of this is gone. There's just a pile of dust and rubble. Other messages describe the impact, saying it was so strong that apartment buildings several kilometers from the plant cracked. Now there is no water or heating in the entire city. All the pipelines that ran underground cracked and failed. Other residents say the explosion was like an earthquake. Everything was shaking. Furniture was falling in people's houses. Dishes were falling out of cupboards. Lastly, the message confirms that communications in houses are also out of order. And this is just from one Russian ICBM missile, or Russian missile, without a nuclear warhead. It was merely conventional. So I thought it was kind of interesting. He's giving perspective on what, pretty impressive duds. Yeah, exactly. He's giving some perspective, though, on what people on the ground that were there actually witnessed. And I do tend to believe that that's probably actually what happened. Since what we now know about Russia's new Oreshnik missile, RT, which is the website I'm on here, RT.com, RT breaks down everything known about the new medium-range hypersonic weapon. So there is more info here. A new weapon, not an upgrade. Hypersonic capabilities and precision. First combat use in response to Ukraine. Mass production and deployment. Global impact and strategic significance. International reactions and future developments. So more info on this page if you care to have a look. Again, RT.com. We will link to all of these posts, all of the articles, and many of the videos that I showed tonight in the Substack post. So make sure you're on that list, diamonddisc.substack.com. The link's up there in the black box, so have a look at that. And we'll address that a little bit more as we move forward tonight. All right, the next article, last one from Hal's site, updated earlier tonight at 7:43 Eastern. Explosions in Kursk and Rostov, Russia. And the claim is that it's yet again more ATACMS, which is more NATO, i.e. U.S. supplied weapons, striking Russia. So here we go again. So it sounds to me like the Biden regime and the people who are running this operation have not learned their lesson here. So let's see what this says. Since about 3 p.m. Eastern time today, meaning yesterday, Saturday, reports have been coming in saying that there have been numerous explosions in Kursk, Russia. Those reports claim American supplied ATACMS were used by Ukraine yet again. Other reports say it may be drones, quote unquote. Additional reports are also coming in claiming explosions in Rostov-on-Don, Russia. I've received video of, this is Hal talking, of what is purported to be a residential area of Kursk, Russia. And the video clearly shows large flashes of light and the loud boom of a significant explosion. So the reports of explosions in Kursk seem to be true. There's no official verification yet, this was as of yesterday, that the weapons that were used were ATACMS. I'm endeavoring to grab the latest intel on this, and we'll find out what I can. So anyway, he's just reporting that it's looking like that's what it was. And then a little bit later, again, this was last night, the explosions in Kursk are confirmed it was a Ukrainian attack. According to the governor of Kursk, 27 Ukrainian UAVs, so in other words drones, and 2 missiles were shot down over the Kursk region. No word on what type of missile. So we don't know for sure if it was more ATACMS, but we do know that Kursk was also attacked again. So anyway, it's not looking too good, is it? Just wanted to mention those things. And yeah, let's keep moving here. We've got quite a bit to go through tonight, so I just thought we would briefly look at the pending war that does seem to be looming on the immediate horizon here. All right, let's see here. Need to know.news. Secondary article that I pulled up here. How China will forcefully take every single citizen's home away. I saw the headline and was intrigued. I wanted to see what it was about. It says, a businessman from South Africa who lived in China explains that the Chinese Communist government owns all of the land and how they plan to take it away from the people. Families are put in debt for something that they cannot own. 40% of all bank loans in China are for real estate, and the majority of loans from mafia shadow banks are linked to real estate. Chinese nationals are buying up land in the U.S., Canada, and Australia. So, and there's a video embedded here as well. I have not watched it, but it might be worth a watch. How China will forcefully take every single citizen's home away is the name of it. So, that is not good. And of course, they're sitting back, rubbing their hands together, waiting to get their mitts on the United States as well, right? We've heard that they've already cut a deal with the Russians going back years, that when we're conquered by whatever pathogen or whatever they have planned for us, not just the Chinese, but I'm just saying the New World Order, whenever we're conquered, then what was it? That Russia gets Alaska and Western Canada, and China gets the rest of Canada and all of the United States, all of the lower 48. That's the plan. It's been out there for a long time now. And some of the Chinese generals have actually talked about it in closed-door meetings that were recorded without their knowledge. So, yeah, this information has been out there for a while. Anyway, so that's on G. Edward Griffin's site, needtoknow.news. And then technocracy.news, the 3 most recent headlines here. Utility companies are run by technocrats obsessed with control over energy. Starting in the early 1930s, the technocracy movement was obsessed with control over energy. The first 2 requirements laid down for technocracy in 1934 were 1, register on a continuous 24-hour per day basis the total net conversion of energy, and 2, by means of the registration of energy converted and consumed, make possible a balanced load. You could easily see this exact wording on your modern energy bill. So it's gone back a long time. Yep, and they're going to tie it to the social credit score and the digital monetary system as soon as possible. Second article on technocracy.news. NYC expands the use of drones to respond to crimes. New York City using drones to respond to crimes. The genie's out of the bottle, granting wishes to the technocrats of the world. Like a person of interest episode, drones can use high-resolution facial recognition cameras to harvest images and conversations of all people along the flight path. The constant use of drones puts a blanket of fear on citizens who don't want to be caught in a surveillance dragnet. Yeah, or just trying to live their lives. Seems to me like that might be another reason. Just trying to live without being watched all the time. Anyway, that is the second article on here. And the third one is Kissinger's final warning. Prepare now for superhuman people to control Earth. Trilateral Commission members Eric Schmidt and the late Henry Kissinger expressed the endgame of fellow member Zbigniew Brzezinski's technotronic era, aka technocracy. Those who will control the world are the superhumans who are genetically hacked or otherwise merged with advanced technology like AI. Their book, Genesis, talks about taking intelligent design out of God's hand and giving it over to post-human designers of co-evolution. Yep. And notice that old Kissinger is no longer around after he said Ukraine needs to surrender. He died right after that. Probably a coincidence, though. Anyway, that's on technocracy.news. Then a couple of the articles I pulled up from Reclaim the Net. G20's online speech clampdown calls set to ignite free speech fears. G20 leaders convened in Rio. We all saw Biden wandering off into the Amazon jungle while he was there for the G20 meeting. They've called for an enhanced responsibility and transparency from digital platforms to tackle the growth challenges of misinformation, quote unquote, disinformation, hate speech, and others on their long list of supposed online harms. Yeah, it's harming them. That's the harm they're worried about. Harming them because the truth will do that. The summit's final declaration highlighted the transformative role of digital platforms in global communication, but noted the adverse effects of digital content's rapid spread. It called for increased accountability from platforms to manage speech, which should raise eyebrows among free speech advocates who've heard this all before. We have obtained a copy of the declaration for you here. So there is a PDF of the G20 Rio Declaration, should you want to read it. During the summit, the leaders highlighted the transformative impact of digital platforms in communication and information dissemination across the globe. However, they also alleged negative ramifications of unchecked digital spaces where harmful content can proliferate at an unprecedented pace and scale. Yeah, they're really worried about that truth. It's kind of pesky like that. It does tend to spread. So anyway, that one is a reclaimthenet.org article, and then one more from that site. UK's Online Safety Act under fire as officials push for new powers to police misinformation. And I've said before, and I will continue to say it, when you see this guy's face, just think King Charles. I know it's not King Charles, but he is under the thumb of King Charles, meaning Keir Starmer, the PM, Prime Minister over there. UK government is moving towards making the much criticized Online Safety Act, OSA, even more contentious, this time by trying to use it to outright enforce online censorship of misinformation, quote unquote, even though the law has no provision that explicitly imposes a legal duty of that kind on social platforms. Yeah, but that doesn't matter. Since when does the law ever matter to these people? Nevertheless, Secretary of State for the Department of Science, Innovation, and Technology, Peter Kyle, appears to be the one hard at work to make this mission creep happen by expanding the Act's scope to punish those platforms considered as not removing misinformation the way the authorities define that. It says in a post on the UK government site, Kyle, this guy, the technology and innovation expert here, Kyle spoke about OSA, the Online Safety Act, allowing for the government to come up with a statement of strategic priorities, really just reinforcing the argument that the law is seriously flawed. And so, this is where a draft to make OSA tougher, quote unquote, as civil rights group Big Brother Watch director Silke Carlo warned in a post, comes in. And then here's the post here, where she is warning about the Online Safety Act in the UK. So yeah, this is definitely a global phenomenon. Free speech worldwide is under fire. And of course, it's not guaranteed anywhere except for in the founding documents of this particular country, and they're trying to thwart that every chance they get, as you all know. Anyway, yeah, reclaimthenet.org is where that one is. A couple articles from the Liberty Beacon as well. LibertyBeacon.com, thelibertybeacon.com. With or without tariffs, the U.S. dollar is a Ponzi scheme, which I think we all know, but Here's a Peter Schiff article here. With soaring deficits, soaring debt, and interest payments that can only be made by issuing a debt-based currency on which even more interest will be due, the U.S. dollar can only possibly be described as an elaborate nation-state level bankster Ponzi scheme. Dollars are backed by debt, which requires infinite economic growth to service. Without constant inflation to erode the debt's value, transferring wealth from savers to the government and bankers, it all falls apart. Without new borrowers to sustain current spending, it falls apart. Without a petrodollar system, where the U.S. dollar is no longer the world's reserve currency and other countries no longer are forced at gunpoint to use dollars, it falls apart. Just as a Ponzi scheme collapses when enough investors lose confidence in it because there's no underlying value and not enough new suckers to pay back previous waves of investors, the U.S. dollar collapses under the same scenario. Imagine that. So it really does kind of prove that that is indeed what it is, a Ponzi scheme. So anyway, and they go on here to say that, and while I see the surface level, superficial appeal of President-elect Trump's plan to replace the income tax with tariffs, there's at least one very big problem where in a country that for decades hasn't had a manufacturing base, making the economic viability of the plan incredibly questionable. Even if it somehow worked, it wouldn't solve the problem of the world's largest economies being based on glorified state-sanctioned Ponzi schemes. Until we revert back to dollars that are pegged to something of real value like gold, the scam will continue. Which I think that's the whole plan. It says, unfortunately, we're past the event horizon for the Ponzi, past the point of no return. No amount of economic tinkering, even of the right sort, and on a big enough scale from Trump or anyone else, can reverse or solve the problem without major implosion causing terrible pain across the economy. So that does seem to be where it's headed. And they may wait until he gets into office, if he lives that long, to dump this whole thing in his lap, including World War III and a financial collapse. So that does seem to be where we're headed. Unless something drastic changes, which I don't really foresee that happening, but you never know. God is in control, right? Thought this interesting article would be worth mentioning. Lankford, this is James Lankford. He's a member of Congress. It says the Bible should be taught in schools as a cultural/historic document. Senator James Lankford says Republican Oklahoma said Sunday on CNN's State of the Union that the Bible should be taught in schools as a historical document and cultural document. I'm sure they didn't care much for that. Let's see what they say. Host Dana Bash said, I do want to ask about something that's going on now in the Texas School Board, which voted this week to incentivize public schools to use an optional curriculum that incorporates Bible lessons. It's optional, though. It began earlier this year in your home state of Oklahoma, which required schools to have Bible in classes and includes the 10 Commandments and lessons. You're a pastor. You are a public official. Both of these issues are very near and dear to your heart. Do you think it's appropriate to incorporate religion into public education like that? And, of course, here's the video. And further reading here on Breitbart is where the original article is. So, yeah. Anyway, I thought that was kind of interesting. And, somebody out there is trying to do something. I think that's good news. We'll see how far it goes. But, again, don't hold your breath, right? All right, let's see. Revolver.news, a couple articles from there. It says, wow, somebody just came up with the most brilliant idea for Matt Gaetz. As you guys know, he has stepped down from the consideration of being the next Attorney General. Of course, he was nominated by Trump, but he's now decided that he's not going to basically go through that, not going to put the Trump administration through that, which they've come out against him in full force, obviously, since this happened. It says, it was always a long shot, but MAGA had high hopes that Matt Gaetz would become our next Attorney General. Let's face it, he would have been a force to be reckoned with. But sadly, thanks to Mitch McConnell, Lisa Murkowski, and John Curtis, the new Rhino senator from Utah, Gaetz fell at least one vote short of confirmation and was forced to withdraw. Says, that's right, folks. We got rid of Mitt Romney only to replace him with a newer version of the same old uniparty puppet. Gates announced his withdrawal on X. Yeah, that was a few days ago now. But here's a link to it in the text from it. It says, as disappointed as many are over this and as infuriating as it is that yet another rhino has sabotaged our America First agenda. This is, again, this is Revolver.news talking. And the mandate for the American people, there is some good news in all of this. Firstly, Trump has announced his new nominee. And again, it's an America First warrior, Pam Bondi. So I don't know about that. I know there's a lot of people that have some serious questions and concerns about her, as you rightfully should. And also many of his nominees, the people that he has said that he wants to fill some of these slots. So as for Gates, we came across a tweet suggesting an absolutely brilliant role for him, one that we genuinely hope that Trump seriously considers. So here's what that says. Imagine this. Matt Gaetz as special counsel leading an investigation into the weaponized DOJ, Jack Smith, and even the sham Mueller team. That's the bold idea independent journalist and filmmaker Mike Cernovich floated on X. But he does say it wasn't his idea, but he's just floating the idea. Matt Gaetz, special counsel to investigate the Department of Justice, including Jack Smith and the Mueller team. So we'll see. We'll see. I thought that was kind of interesting. We'll see where it goes. Possibly nowhere. But it is interesting that people are using their noggins out there. So that's good. And then here's one other article here. We now know who killed the Gates nomination, which I kind of already went over that. And then just talking about the rhinos, in particular, the Never Trumpers, the Never Trumper from Utah, John Curtis. So Curtis ran for the Utah State Senate in 2000 as a Democrat against Kurt Bramble, losing 33% to 66%. So he was a Democrat. He just put an R by his name this time. So the R means rhino, not Republican. Anyway. So there you have it. And then I wanted to mention this. This was a guy I was familiar with. He'd been interviewed on different shows that I had seen. Not sure if you guys know who he is. Scott Bennett. He was an RT commentator, but that's not where I was familiar with him necessarily. I'd seen him interviewed on different shows and podcasts and stuff, InfoWars and others. But he has recently died, just as a few days ago, at the age of 53. Former U.S. Army psychological warfare officer and political analyst. He had pancreatic cancer. So he's passed away, family stated on Friday. Provided political commentary to RT and other media outlets. He also traveled to the Donbass in 2023 to witness the situation on the ground firsthand. RT aired a documentary detailing his journey from Donetsk and other frontline cities, titled Frontline Diary of an American Officer. So anyway, here's a picture of him here as well. So that's too bad. But I do know that, at least from what he said, he was a believer. So that is good news. He's now with the Lord, but that's too bad. He's too young. And he was definitely one that was out there speaking the truth, from what I could tell. And then one other article from RT, the world very close to the point of no return, according to Scott Ritter. Russia's new Oreshnik missile is a qualitative advancement, quote unquote, showing that Moscow is ready to mirror any Western escalation, the former UN weapons inspector has said. Russia's strike on the Ukrainian defense industrial facility, which we talked about at the beginning of the show, has been using a new hypersonic ballistic missile system, shown the West that the policy of further escalation will lead to devastating consequences. Former weapons inspector Scott Ritter has said, America's recklessness in dealing with Russia, as well as underestimating Moscow's readiness to respond, has already brought the world dangerously close to an all-out nuclear war, the former U.S. Marine officer claimed on Judging Freedom YouTube show on Thursday. Earlier in the day, President Putin said that the country's military successfully hit a Ukrainian target with a new intermediate-range ballistic missile called the Oreshnik. The strike was a response to Kiev using U.S.-made ATACMS and HIMARS systems, as well as British-made Storm Shadow missiles in strikes on internationally recognized Russian territory earlier this week. So yeah, Scott Ritter is saying, watch out. We are very, very close to all-out war here. Anyway, I wanted to point that out. So yeah, he's doing good work out there, I think. So anyway, that one's on RT.com. I found this article, not really so much the article, but just the entire website. I wanted to mention it just because I think this is, you could also say, is a site of, I guess you could call it disinformation, but you could also say that it's true information, but their conclusions are wrong, in my opinion. It's called Electroverse. I'd never heard of the site before, but I came across this. I don't remember if it's a Substack or what, but anyway, the website is electroverse.info. It says documenting Earth changes during the next grand solar minimum, which that might be all true, but they're attributing all cooling off across the planet to the next grand solar minimum, which, that's arguable. That might be happening. However, with the geoengineering that's happening in our skies and no mention of that on this website, I think they're ignoring the old elephant in the room, as they say. So there's lots of articles here. Every single article is detailing how cold it is in the United States and how cold it is across the world. But no details as far as what chemical ice nucleation and geoengineering even is, or that it exists. They're just attributing everything to the grand solar minimum. So I think that's a mistake. So that's why I'm calling out this site as disinformation, because they're only telling you part of the story, the part that agrees with their narrative, that there is a grand solar minimum, and there might be. However, it's being overridden by the fact that the Earth is in meltdown across the globe, and the only ongoing cool place in the entire planet is the eastern half of the United States. If you don't believe me, then have a look at the upcoming weather event. Just the next scheduled weather forecast here. Let me scroll up a little. This is for November 30th to December 4th. You can see exactly what's going on. They're keeping the eastern half of the United States cool, and therefore people asleep. And therefore, you have websites like this that really just talk about the grand solar minimum, not about geoengineering and chemical ice nucleation and how they can cool vast areas with chemical cool downs. So I just wanted to point that out. I feel like this website is only reporting a little bit of the story here. So I would recommend that these people do a little bit more research on what they're talking about. Of course, they won't, because it goes against what they're already talking about, and that is that it's the grand solar minimum and nothing else. Anyway, I just wanted to point that out. All right, and I came across this as well. This is a site that you guys may have heard of, although I was pretty new to this. This is yet another, smart city / global climate thing that's popped up. I didn't know if you guys knew about this. It's called C40 Cities. It says mayors are leading the global climate fight. City and subnational leaders will head to U20 and COP29 from November 11th through 22nd to drive ambitious global climate action. And boy, is it ambitious. So that's going on now, I guess. Anyway, C40 is a global network of mayors of the world's leading cities that are united in action to confront the climate crisis. You can tell when you see a lot of these websites and other media that have all these real bright, colorful graphics. You can kind of tell where they're going with it. It's pretty much going to be like a UN sort of mandate, if you ask me. Just one thing I've noticed. Looks like it's the website was put together for people who are kids, really. Even though I think that they're wanting it to be for the global population. So here's what it says. Global, it's called U20 COP29. This is the C40 cities, additional information. C40 is a global network of nearly 100 mayors of the world's leading cities that are united in action to confront the climate crisis, one that they've created with geoengineering. I'll add that little caveat. they won't bother to tell you that, right? The mayors of C40 cities are committed to using an inclusive, there's a key word there, science-based and collaborative approach to cut their fair share of emissions in half by 2030. It's always the date that the UN talks about, right? Help the world limit global heating to 1.5 C. I think we're way past that already, by the way. And build healthy, equitable, another key word, and resilient communities. C40 supports mayors to do this by raising climate ambition, building equitable and thriving communities, building a global movement, scaling up climate action, facilitating access to finance for investments in green jobs, which are totally pointless. So anyway, that is the C40 cities. And then here's kind of some of the interesting partners you might want to know about. Some of the strategic funders, the Bloomberg Philanthropies, Children's Investment Fund Foundation, the UK government, the Clean Air Fund, Carrier, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Denmark, and then some of the other usual suspects, even the EU. So, and look, there's IKEA. So yeah, a lot of the usual suspects plus some. Here's Uber, the Climate Pledge, Amazon, the Climate Pledge, Amazon, Scottish government, and the Zurich Foundation. So, So anyway, yeah, it's a lot of the usual suspects, as I mentioned, some of the funders and partners for the C40 cities. So there's a list of all the cities here as well. I didn't pull that up, but feel free to have a look at this. Just click on our cities right here. Well, here, I'll do that. I think it's it's just a map, so you can kind of see. Let me zoom in a little here and see what cities we're talking about in the U.S. at least. East Coast, we got Boston, New York, Philadelphia, Washington, and Miami. New Orleans, Houston, and Austin. Phoenix, L.A., San Francisco, Portland, and Seattle, and Vancouver. So yeah, again, the usual suspects, but C40 cities, I think, is some bad news. But I just wanted to mention it just because that's something it was new to me. But yeah, there's more and more of these types of crazy organizations popping up in response to whatever the UN's putting out, which in my opinion all comes from the top, which is actually King Charles. Again, it's his religion, isn't it? Environmentalism and all of this craziness. All right, let's see. People's Voice, top headlines, peoplesvoice.tv. Ellen DeGenerate named as Diddy accomplice in Hollywood pedophile investigation. We'll see. I'm not convinced that's going anywhere, but not that it's probably not accurate. I'm sure that probably is true, but who knows where it'll go. Pentagon, U.S. adjusts nuclear deterrent strategy amid escalating tensions with Russia. Now, that's something that Hal Turner had reported on as well. And that's apparently not happened anytime in the last numerous decades, at least since before 9/11 even. So, interesting that it's happened now. They've adjusted their nuclear deterrent strategy. It says that U.S. is going to adjust its nuclear deterrent strategy to meet potential threats from Russia and China. Yeah, but they're the ones doing the threatening, not Russia and China. According to the Pentagon, Department of Defense issued a statement on Thursday. So, anyway, and then the next article, France allows Ukraine to use French-made missiles to strike deep within Russia. So now the French are getting involved as well as the U.S. and the U.K. with deep inside Russia attacks, which of course is going to lead to all-out war. It just will. Tom Hanks named as Diddy's sickest participant in the pedophile investigation. Tom Hanks, you know, the actor. Yeah, so it's probably one of the reasons he talked about leaving the U.S. when Trump is elected, if Trump is elected. So good riddance, right? I don't think he'll be going anywhere, except for hopefully maybe to jail someday. That would be nice. Polish minister, Ukraine laundered billions in U.S. aid back to the Democrats. Yes, we knew this. That was part of the whole crypto scam that happened a couple years ago as well. State Department staff given taxpayer-funded therapy for PTSD following the Trump victory. So yeah, our tax dollars at work. State Department giving the staff PTSD therapy because you're so enraged and triggered by the fact that Trump was elected. Too funny and very sad. All right, Information Liberation headlines from this site. Trump nominates Pam Bondi for Attorney General. Mentioned her earlier. Gates withdraws from consideration as Attorney General. Netanyahu cries anti-Semitism after International Criminal Court issues warrant for his arrest. Yep, another toothless warrant, if you ask me. As poll finds Ukrainians want to end war, U.S. pushes Zelensky to bomb Russia and expand the conscription. So the draft, basically. Schumer moves to silence criticism of Israel as hate speech with Anti-Semitism Awareness Act. Those are the top headlines, the most recent ones on Information Liberation. And then from the SIFT, WNG.org, Musk and Ramaswamy plan to defund Planned Parenthood. Well, that would be nice. Doge, right? The leaders of Trump's newly announced Department of Government Efficiency this week announced their plans to cut funding to abortion provider Planned Parenthood. I wish they would just do it when they get in instead of making a big deal about it, because now the big war will start over it. Trump allies and businessman Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy promised in a Wall Street Journal op-ed Wednesday to cut nearly $300 million in federal funds to the abortion provider and other groups like it. So anyway, more info here on this article on WNG.org. And then a couple more from that site. New York judge indefinitely delays Trump's sentencing. This is Judge Juan Merchan on Friday said he was delaying President-elect Trump's sentencing hearing for his business fraud conviction, which was a total sham and totally made up, but it doesn't matter. Trump was previously scheduled to be sentenced on Tuesday, November 26th. Merchan outlined his decision in a one-page document, but did not set a new date for sentencing. He's probably a little afraid that he will get in and then pardon himself and then come after him, which really should happen anyway. But because, lawfare is one of these systems that they've been using against people that they have a little bit of a problem with. A little bit of a problem beating at the ballot box, but a little bit of a problem with their politics, of which Trump obviously is the main one. So the other one that I pulled up here from WNG.org, FBI foils Florida man's plan to blow up the stock exchange. Federal investigators allege that a Florida resident, and you might notice his name here, Harun Abdul Malik Yenner, planned to blow up the New York Stock Exchange building in Manhattan the week before Thanksgiving. His public defense attorney filed papers Thursday showing that Yenner invoked his right to silence and attorney representation. Law enforcement arrested him on Wednesday. What do prosecutors believe motivated him to plan the alleged attack? Says Yenner believed an attack on the stock exchange would shake the public and trigger a reset to the U.S. government, according to the FBI's complaint. The alleged attacker made audio recordings of himself to send to news outlets after the bombing, according to the FBI. He's presumed innocent until proven guilty, unless your name is Donald John Trump or others. The Justice Department said in a news release. Yeah, right. Well, he just didn't have the okay from the feds to do what he was going to do. That was his main problem. If he would have had the okay from the CIA and the FBI and the other three-letter agencies, then he would have been allowed to carry it out, believe me. But apparently he was going around them, and that is not allowed. So therefore, he goes to jail. So we'll see what happens. But I thought that was kind of interesting that somebody was planning an attack on the stock exchange. Good grief. All right, let's see here. Thought this one was kind of interesting. This is Daily Mail article. Top Russian general and 500 North Korean soldiers killed by British Storm Shadow missiles in a devastating attack. So this is the British Storm Shadow missile attack that happened when it penetrated some of the Russian area a few days back. Now this is saying, I'm not sure if I buy this, but this is saying that not only a top Russian general, but also 500 North Korean soldiers have allegedly been killed by British Storm Shadow missiles in a devastating attack. The strike launched by Ukraine on November 20th wiped out Lieutenant General Valery Solodchuk and also resulted with 18 Putin officials or officers reported lost, with a further 18 wounded, it has been claimed. Lots of 18s. And then it says, earlier reports suggested that a Kim Jong-un general had also been left injured in the attack, and he had commanded troops backing Putin's Ukraine invasion. The strike carried out by Ukraine was the first time UK Storm Shadow missiles had been used to blast targets deep inside Russia. It is understood that the pinpoint missiles had hit a Putin command post and military facility, with the scale of Russian losses now alleged to be enormous. Russian authorities have not yet confirmed losses, which would be grievous to both Russia and North Korea if confirmed, and the reports are yet to be independently verified. So that's a huge number, and I had not heard that anywhere but this particular site. So I'm not sure that it's true. I do find it interesting, though, that they're reporting this to be accurate. So this is the Russian Lieutenant General Valery Solodchuk, who supposedly was killed in this attack. Again, British Storm Shadow missiles striking on November 20th. So I don't know. I mean, if this is true, this is a really, really big deal. And it's been kept, for whatever reason, been kept quiet through the U.S. mainstream media. Nobody's talking about this. So and then it goes on to talk about the Oreshnik hypersonic missiles that were used and so forth. So anyway, that's some crazy stuff. But here's one of the Storm Shadow / Scalp missiles. So further info here on this site on the Daily Mail, and then this is actually kind of a sister piece to that same article from the Moscow Times that I found. North Korean troops in Russia expected to enter combat soon, the Pentagon says. So there's the giant bronze statues of the old North Korean dictator there, Rocket Man, right? And you can see that. You can see those same statues here. I noticed that they're right here in that picture as well. But it says U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Lord Austin said Saturday that thousands of North Korean troops currently stationed in Russia are expected to enter combat against Ukraine soon. So do you suppose if that's true, I wonder if that is the troops that were taken out in the last article we were just talking about. It says during a visit to Fiji, Lloyd Austin said, I wonder why he's in Fiji. Lloyd Austin said that around 10,000 North Korean soldiers are believed to be in Russia's Kursk region near the border with Ukraine, where they're being integrated into Russian military formations. So that kind of further confirms that there were North Koreans there. Whether or not 500 of them were killed, we don't know. But that is kind of putting them in striking distance, unfortunately, of the... I mean, I don't want to see anybody getting hurt and killed by anyone, but that seems to be the way it's headed. But if that's happened, I do think that's interesting that it's being kept under wraps. And then this as well is kind of another surprising thing, and yet not really. From Sky News, it says, what are the anti-personnel landmines the U.S. is sending to Ukraine, and why are they banned by more than 150 countries? Fake President Biden is ramping up support for Ukraine in his final days in office with the provision of controversial anti-personnel landmines. They're putting landmines in. Biden has approved sending anti-personnel landmines to Ukraine as he seeks to ramp up support for Kiev in his final days in office. It comes after the U.S. allowed Ukrainian forces to fire at targets deep inside Russian territory with American-made weapons such as ATACMS. U.S. officials said Washington has now authorized the provision of anti-personnel landmines, which have a long and controversial history. Their use is banned by more than 150 countries, but notably not by the U.S. and Russia. What are anti-personnel landmines? Landmines are explosives that are concealed on the ground and are designated to detonate when the enemy forces pass over or near them. Some are built to destroy armored vehicles, like anti-tank mines, while others are built to hurt enemy troops, which are anti-personnel mines. And it's all been approved by Biden. So that's about as sick as it gets, on top of all of the missiles that's being sent over there as well. So anyway, I wanted to point that out. Something you don't hear too often, at least not from most media places. I thought this one was kind of interesting. This is something that we talk about every now and then on this show, and it's not without controversy, or as they say in the UK, controversy. So this is a story about Ursula Haverbeck, who died, says today, when is that? On November 20th, who died on November 20th at 96 years old. She spent the last years of her life in prison, and her crime? It was saying that the Holocaust didn't happen the way that Hollywood says that it did. That was her crime. She was alive when it happened, and yet the people who locked her up weren't even born yet. This is what you-know-what supremacy looks like. And she lived through it, and she dared question the narrative from Hollywood that the Holocaust didn't exactly happen the way that they say it did, and she goes to jail to rot and to die. And she did. So anyway, I just wanted to point that out. How sad is that? And then somebody posted this as a reply. It's not illegal to question Chinese history. It's not illegal to question European history. It's not illegal to question African history. It is illegal to question Jewish history. Illegal. And she found out the hard way. Anyway, very sick and very sad, and that is what they do. The people in charge. Trump's crypto council expected to set up Bitcoin reserve plan. Trump's been all about Bitcoin and digital money lately. I think that's bad news because we all know that's part of how the Mark of the Beast system will be employed. So that's kind of what this article is talking about, digital money at least, that aspect of it. It says, with the president-elect set to introduce the White House's first digital asset-focused role, Trump's Crypto Advisory Council is reportedly expected to set up the nation's first strategic Bitcoin reserve. Indeed, the returning U.S. president is looking to formulate a council that would govern crypto-related policies. The development of the council has garnered interest from across the cryptocurrency industry. Coinbase CEO Brian Armstrong has met with Trump earlier this week. Moreover, Cardano ADA developer Charles Hoskinson gave his vote of confidence for Armstrong's viability as part of such a council. So Trump Crypto Advisory Council taking shape, Bitcoin reserve bill remains premier focus. While I don't think Bitcoin will be part of the Mark of the Beast system, it is interesting that he's out there really promoting cryptocurrency. And of course, after the collapse happens, after whatever nuclear exchange happens, the system that comes online will most likely not be Bitcoin, but it will be some version of cryptocurrency running on blockchain. So, and then that's what they're going to tie the digital ID to. That's where you get the Mark of the Beast system. So that seems to be where it's headed. And again, I think that it would be headed this way no matter who has been elected the quote-unquote president. So it is interesting, though, that Trump's out there promoting crypto. All right, let's see. And then this one's from Singularity Hub. a chat GPT-like AI can now design whole new genomes from scratch. All life on Earth is written with our 4 DNA letters. It says an AI just used those letters to dream up a completely new genome from scratch. How about that? Called Evo. Maybe they mean evil. Evo, EVO. The AI was inspired by the large language models, or LLMs, underlying popular chatbots such as OpenAI's ChatGPT and Anthropic's Claude. I mentioned Claude last week, actually. These models have taken the world by storm for their prowess and at general human-like responses, from simple tasks such as defining an obtuse word to summarizing scientific papers or spewing verses fit for a rap battle. LLMs have entered our everyday lives. Says if LLMs can master written languages, could they do the same for the language of life? Says this month, a team from Stanford and the Arc Institute put the theory to a test. Rather than training Evo on content scraped from the internet, they trained the AI on nearly 3 million genomes, amounting to billions of lines of genetic code from various microbes and bacteria infecting viruses. Evo was better than previous AI models at predicting how mutations to genetic material, DNA and RNA, could alter function. The AI also got creative, dreaming up several new components for the gene editing tool CRISPR. Isn't that nice? Even more impressively, the AI generated a genome more than a megabase long, roughly the size of some bacterial genomes. Wow. Talks about the DNA multiverse. Compared to the English alphabet's 26 letters, DNA only has A, T, C, and G. These letters are shorthand for the 4 molecules adenine, thymine, cytosine, and guanine that combined spell out our genes. If LLMs can conquer languages and generate new prose, rewriting the genetic handbook with only 4 letters should be a piece of cake. It says not quite. Human language is organized into words, phrases, and punctuated into sentences to convey information. DNA, in contrast, is more continuous, and genetic components are complex. The same DNA letters can carry parallel threads of information. So anyway, there's quite a bit here on this article if you want to have a look at it. It's on Singularity Hub. So, yeah, that's pretty wild, huh? Not too surprising, actually, that they've got AI doing that. And my guess is they've been doing that with AI for a long time and may have, in fact, have used AI to come up with the whole book nonsense from start to finish. Perhaps it was AI that was involved in that whole nightmare as well. We just don't know, and we probably never will. All right. Article on offguardian.org says, will Trump's secret JFK files point the finger at Israel? Well, this article says November 22nd, which was a couple days ago now, which means we're in the midst of the 24 hours per year the mainstream media talks about JFK, except we're not. It says every year for as long as I can remember, the anniversary of the assassination means stories like this, or this, which is all linked to Independent and Business Insider and Rolling Stone. But for some reason, this year, it's quiet. Except for the Trump rumors, of course. He's absolutely going to publish the sealed JFK files this time. Just wait. Any day now. That's the mainstream media covered. Yeah. It says in the alternate media, JFK coverage is different, and it has been for a while now. All anyone wants to know about is Israel pulling the trigger. That's what Candace Owen says. And Mint Press News. Apparently, it was because JFK wanted to stop Israel getting nukes. Something like that may be true, but does merit a complex public assassination, risking total alienation of the most powerful country in the world? Couldn't they just lie about having nukes, as apparently they did, until Kennedy's term was over? That's only 5 years later at most. So is this a valuable new insight or a deliberate effort to narrow and change the focus of the JFK narrative? A new solution is a mystery long since solved. So, it says because we may not know exact names of the triggermen or who gave precisely which order, a considered reading of available evidence offers only one sustainable conclusion: JFK was killed by the deep state. Yes. Anyway, there's more information here. There's a pretty lengthy article, actually, about JFK here. The secret JFK files. Will it point its finger at Israel? Well, if it does, you can bet it won't be released. So yeah, he did mention that on Rogan's show when he did that interview a few weeks ago. He talked about, they had released about 50% of it, he said, but I'm not so sure I totally think that they released 50% of it. I don't think that they did. They might have released 5%, but I don't think it was 50. Anyway, yeah, we'll see what happens, but again, don't hold your breath, right? With RFK Jr. in there, maybe he can help push that along, but I'm not so sure. Not so sure. And then Axios.com, this article is kind of a contradiction to what I heard earlier with the new nominee of the from the Trump administration that's going to be handling the whole ICE situation and getting rid of a lot of these illegals that have come in. He said they weren't going to use the military, but now this article is saying Trump confirms plan to use military for mass deportations. Confirmed Monday, he is planning to declare a national emergency and use the U.S. military to carry out mass deportations. Says why it matters. Trump made his promise to deport millions of undocumented immigrants one of the cornerstones of his 2024 campaign, and his teams already began strategizing how to carry out this plan. Let's see. Tom Fitton, talking from Judicial Watch, said, prepare to declare a national emergency and will use military assets to reverse the Biden invasion through a mass deportation program. I think you could do that, but you could also make their lives miserable just by cutting off access to all of the taxpayer-funded everything that they're getting, first and foremost, and just give them a time frame. Get out of the country by X date, or we will come hunt you down and deport you. You could do it that way, and you probably would get rid of 50% of the people that came in. It says, zoom out. Trump has already begun filling out his cabinet positions with immigration hardliners. Includes tapping Tom Homan, who we mentioned last week, former acting head of Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, to serve as his border czar. Yeah, and Tom Homan was the guy who said, at least in one video that I saw, saying that, no, we're not going to use the military. But obviously that's going to be Trump's call. We'll see. But that article is on Axios. All right, and then I thought these next couple articles were kind of interesting for different reasons. Both about Jesus. It says the earliest Jesus is God inscription found in Israel, deemed greatest discovery since the Dead Sea Scrolls. So this is an article from November 19th. So the earliest inscription declaring Jesus as God, deemed the greatest discovery since the Dead Sea Scrolls, was uncovered beneath the floor of an Israeli prison and is now on display in America. It says the 1,800-year-old mosaic discovered by an inmate of the Megiddo prison features an ancient Greek writing. The God-loving Akeptus has offered the table to God Jesus Christ as a memorial, quote unquote. The 581 square foot mosaic decorated the world's first prayer hall in 230 AD, confirming Christians believed Jesus was the Son of God from the very beginning. The Megiddo mosaic also included some of the earliest images of fish, which experts believe reference the story in Luke 9:16 when Jesus multiplied 2 fish to feed a crowd of 5,000 people. So, wow. The floor has been hidden under the prison since it was discovered in 2005, but has now been lent to a museum in D.C. until July next year. Carlos Campo, CEO of the museum, hailed the mosaic as the greatest discovery since the Dead Sea Scrolls, when his colleagues noted it was the most important archaeological discovery for understanding the early Christian church. We are truly among the first people to ever see this, to experience what almost 2,000 years ago was put together by a man named Brutius, the incredible craftsman who laid the flooring here. So there it is. I guess there's the circled place here. The Megiddo mosaic pictured was unearthed during the expansion of a high-security prison in Israel. So how about that? There it is. Pretty amazing, actually. So it says, the inscription again says, the God-loving Akeptus has offered the table of God, Jesus Christ, as a memorial. That's apparently what is stated right here. So that's wild. Praise the Lord, huh? So yes, more truth came out. Here's some of the fishies here. Mosaic featured some of the earliest images of fish being used to represent Christianity, mirroring the story told in Luke 9:16, when Jesus multiplied 2 fish to feed a crowd of 5,000 people. Yes, but the Jews are saying, the Israelis are saying that the place where the fish supposedly came from is just from a fish kill. He didn't actually do it. So that's what they said. I mentioned that in an article a couple weeks ago now on the show. Very strange. Anyway, and then this one gets even weirder here. So this says, church has an AI Jesus for confessions. Quote, it gave me so much advice. I'm sure it did. It says, is this the Messiah? And it's AI. The AI in Messiah. Just in case artificial intelligence hasn't been taking on enough jobs lately, now it's replacing the Almighty. So says this article on in the New York Post. A church in Switzerland is now using an AI hologram of Jesus to take confessions from Catholic worshipers, as seen in a wild viral video, which is embedded here. I was surprised, quote unquote. I was surprised it was so easy, and though it's a machine, it gave me so much advice. One awestruck worshiper told DW News while describing their experience with the Sermonator, located at St. Peter's Church in Lucerne. Dubbed Deus in Machina. How about that? God in the machine is what that means. Dubbed Deus in Machina, the futuristic shrine features a confessional booth with a screen displaying the face of Jesus through the grate. Before entering, Robo-Jesus cautions, quote, do not disclose personal information under any circumstances. Use this service at your own risk. Press the button if you accept, because that's what the real Jesus might say. Yeah. So you have people falling for this whole AI as God thing. See, there's an ad for it right here. Look. Deus in Machina. Yes, but the God that they're talking to is a little g God. Wow. So that's how crazy things are getting. That article's on New York Post. All right, let's take a break here and have a little video. This one's called Jared Kushner involved in staffing the next Trump administration. Thought it was kind of interesting and certainly worth a watch.
Dr. Oz, who hangs out with Marina Abramovich and who has received $120,000 from the Israeli lobby, promotes implantable chips and transgenderism.
Do you remember when your parents thought you were a boy?
A little bit.
Talk to me about that a little bit.
Like, how did it make you feel when I used to take you and get your hair cut off at the barbershop on base?
It made me very angry.
Mm-hmm. You did not like your haircut. Why not?
Because I'm a girl, not a boy.
Yeah.
Tulsi Gabbard, who was sold to us as an anti-war personality and who has received $40,000 from the Israeli lobby, is now saying we need to go to war against Islam.
Joe Biden just recently pausing weapon shipments to Israel. How do you see that? I mean, there are folks that say he's on the side of Hamas at this point.
He is acting out of fear, which is why he has failed, like previous administrations before him, to wage this counter-ideological warfare against this Islamist ideology whose goal is to establish Islamic rule over the entire world. Even with what's happening in our college campuses, even knowing that this is Hamas, Al-Qaeda, ISIS, this is their objective. He refuses to call it out for what it is because he's afraid of being called an Islamophobe. And it's the same reason why he is not taking seriously the need to defeat Hamas.
Incoming Senate Majority Leader John Thune, who has received $460,000 from the Israeli lobby, is warning that the International Criminal Court may become a threat to the U.S.
Now you have the International Criminal Court, or the ICC, and its prosecutor pursuing warrants against Israeli officials. That is outrageous, and it is unlawful. The ICC rogue actions are a threat to our ally Israel, and left unchecked, it could pose a threat to America in the future. So to our allies in Israel, and to the Jewish people around the world, my message to you is this: reinforcements are on the way.
If you were wondering why the new Trump administration is looking more like Israel first than America first, according to Howard Lutnick, Donald Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, has been advising him on how to staff the administration.
So you're the co-chair of the Trump transition team, is that right?
That's correct.
So in the first Trump administration, a lot of lobbyists got appointed to prominent cabinet positions. Mark Esper, defense secretary, for example, was the top lobbyist. Raytheon, lots of other examples. Is that a philosophy that you would want to see perpetuated in a second Trump administration? Would it differ? What's the status of that?
No lobbyists are part of the transition. So I don't think so at all. I think we have the greatest group of potential, people who want to serve that you've ever seen. We have the leaders of America.
So no lobbyists in a second Trump administration?
I would not expect people who are lobbyists to be a material part. You can't say none. It's 4,000 people joining, so that's a silly thing.
Senior level cabinet positions, let's say.
I don't think so.
Is Jared Kushner coming back?
I don't comment on people. I told you that's not it, but Jared Kushner is a big help to me.
He's actively helping you on this project?
He is absolutely actively helping me because everybody's helping me. J.D. Vance is helping me. Everybody's helping find the most talented people they have.
Jared Kushner is a longtime family friend of Benjamin Netanyahu. The Kushner family, like the Trump family, are in the real estate business, and the Kushners have been doing business in Israel for years. Earlier this year, Jared spoke of Gaza's valuable waterfront property.
There are real fears on the part of Arabs, and I'm sure you talk to a lot of them, who think once Gazans leave Gaza, Netanyahu's never going to let them back in.
Maybe, but I'm not sure there's much left of Gaza at this point. So, if you think about even the construct, Gaza was not really a historical precedent, right? It was the result of a war. Borders are changed historically over time. And so my sense is I would say, how do we deal with the terror threat that is there so that it cannot be a threat to Israel or to Egypt, right? I think that both sides are spending a fortune on military. I think neither side really wants to have, a terrorist organization enclaved right between them. In Gaza's waterfront property, it could be very valuable. It's a little bit of an unfortunate situation there, but I think from Israel's perspective, I would do my best to move the people out and then clean it up. I think proactively recognizing a Palestinian state would essentially be rewarding an act of terror that was perpetrated into Israel. So it's a super bad idea in that regard.
Reporting for InfoWars, this is Greg Reese.
Yes, America last, Israel first. I think you're right. Yep, that does seem to be the way it's headed. Again, all of this is with the idea that Trump is going to survive long enough to even be inaugurated, let alone do all of these things, which maybe he will. If it's God's will, I'm sure he will. However, it is very concerning. There's a lot of red flags with a lot of these picks, but there are some good ones. There's a few good ones, but very, very few in relation to the bad ones. there's it's pretty much a who's who of Israel first at this point. So, it is very concerning. I will say that. However, we'll have to reserve judgment at least for a little while here to see, first of all, if he even gets in, and second of all, if these people nominated will even make it, which some of them won't, some of them will. He may have to choose other people for other reasons. However, I do think, though, that from what I gather, Trump is definitely someone who thinks that he is supporting God by supporting Israel, which, of course, is a very strong delusion, if you know what I mean. So, we'll see where it goes. And if he makes it into office, then we have some issues that we're going to have to deal with, obviously. But if it was the other side that was getting into office, I should say staying in office, there would be zero good picks. At least in this case, we do have a few people, it looks like, that will be very helpful and very good, not only for the country, but just for the people of the country in general. Obviously, it remains to be seen who gets confirmed, who doesn't get confirmed, and so forth. So we will see where it goes. I'm going to personally withhold judgment for a little while on this. I am very concerned. I don't want you to think I'm not. But yes, right now it's looking like Israel first, not America first. So that is very concerning for sure. So anyway, let's take a look at some of the rest of the articles I have pulled up. I thought the AI Jesus confessional thing was super creepy and very evil. Deus in the Machina. So there it is. Man, you have to be really in a sorry state of your personal relationship with Jesus if you go and try and talk to the Lord in a confessional when you know on purpose that it is not him, it's simply a machine. What are people thinking? Or maybe they're not. Maybe that's the problem. Anyway, I found this YouTube video and I wanted to mention it. I probably won't play it just for time's sake tonight. But yeah, let's we'll kind of bookmark this one and put it in the Substack post that I send out tomorrow, but it's called Asheville Update. This is Falling Through the Cracks is the name of the channel, which I'd never heard of before, but it's an Asheville Update. This is saying bodies are being stacked in warehouses and children are being taken away. Well, we've talked about the children being taken away on other broadcasts here on the Diamond Report. So I think it was the last maybe show or two ago where we talked about that. Kids are being taken away from their parents. This is saying there's so many bodies that they're being stacked in warehouses because they don't know who's who and they're just literally doing that. Now, as far as I know, no video has come out about that. And I mean, it's probably good that it hasn't. But on the other hand, how are you going to believe it? You're just going off someone's word. So I don't know. I personally think that there's a good chance it could be true just because we know that most likely tens of thousands of people are missing and dead. So, but yeah, this is an 8-minute video here that certainly worth a watch. People that are on the ground in Asheville. So something that I wanted to bring your attention to, and I came across it earlier and watched it earlier today. So again, we'll link to this on the Substack post, or you can find it on YouTube. Just do a search for Falling Through the Cracks. That's the name of the YouTube channel. And it's a video from about a week ago. So anyway, and then let's see, Zero Hedge article I pulled up says Danish Navy hunts down Chinese ship suspected of sabotaging the Baltic Sea cables. So we saw some mention of this in the first video that we watched tonight. So they are figuring that it's this Chinese ship that is responsible for cutting these cables. The Yipeng 3 Chinese registered bulk carrier was suspected of damaging 2 fiber optic data cables beneath the Baltic Sea, which connected Finland, Germany, Sweden, and Lithuania. The bulk carrier is anchored in Kattegat Bay alongside a Danish naval vessel. The ship tracking website Marine Traffic shows the Danish naval vessel alongside the Yipeng 3, and both vessels are anchored. So they have apparently brought it into port there, and then it's showing the routes, and these are some of the cables. Some of the Baltic Sea countries affected by the destruction of undersea telecom cables by the Chinese vessel Yiping have announced how they classified their investigations. So some are saying sabotage, some are saying terrorism, depending on the country. So sabotage and terrorism doesn't sound too good. It says, according to the Wall Street Journal, citing sources, Sweden, Finland, Lithuania, Germany, and other EU countries have found a preliminary investigation that the cables were likely severed in Swedish economic waters. So, anyway, somehow this Chinese ship, supposedly at least, ostensibly, is responsible for cutting the cables. Why would they be doing that? Working for the Russians, no doubt. Yeah. So let's see here. Next article I pulled up. Well, it's actually a video. I thought I would just play this and just kind of talk over it. But it's the number of nuclear bombs by country in 2024. It's a short video. North Korea has 20. How they know this, I don't know. Israel has 90. And India has 160. Again, nuclear bombs by country. Pakistan, 165. So it's not looking too good here. United Kingdom, 225 nuclear bombs. France, 290. And China, 350. And then the U.S. has a whopping 5,428 nuclear bombs. But who has the most? I'll give you one guess. It ain't the USA. Russia has 5,977, according to this. Who knows what the actual amount is? But that's on Forbidden Knowledge TV, ForbiddenKnowledgeTV.net. Interesting site. I've mentioned it a few times lately. Operation Mountain Relief, Mayday for heaters. Talking about Asheville. So people helping out in Asheville again. Video, an article there, and then another article here about Scott Bennett, who I mentioned earlier in the show. Countries facing nuclear civilizational collapse due to the insanity of Biden administration, Zelensky, NATO, and the EU. So there's an article about that. And then the wonderful Bond villain says Klaus Schwab describes upcoming brain implants in a new interview from the World Economic Forum, but is dated 2022. Davos leader Klaus Schwab partially describes what the upcoming human brain chip implants will likely be like. So it's not exactly new, but anyway, it's mentioned there in that video. So have a look at that if you want. ForbiddenKnowledgeTV.net. And then Leo Hohmann's Substack. He didn't have any new articles on his main website, but he's got some new Substacks. The newest one is, it's getting serious now. Putin responds with hypersonic missile launch. So that's the top, most recent article here from November 21st. And yet another escalation, Biden regime sending anti-personnel landmines banned in 150 countries to Ukraine. So we mentioned that a little while ago. Leo Hohmann has also reported on this. And then here we go. This just escalated to World War III. Biden regime gives green light for Ukraine to use long-range missiles in it to attack deep inside Russia. So anyway, those are the Leo Hohmann Substack articles, the three most recent ones at least. Coming soon, Gates announces he will not return to Congress, says he will tell stories of corruption, treason, and betrayal. So let's hope that Matt Gaetz likes to go on living, depending on who he's going to be pointing the finger at here. Says he will not be returned to Congress after resigning from the 118th. Gaetz last week resigned from Congress after the Trump nomination for Attorney General. I'm so going to be in the fight. It's going to be from a new perch. I do not intend to join the 119th Congress. he said to Charlie Kirk on Friday. So he's saying he isn't going back to Congress. So let's hope that he has some pretty good personal protection, if you know what I mean. If he likes to live, of course. Gates warned he will be telling stories of corruption and treason. Stock trading is such a huge part of Congress. It shouldn't be. I can't wait to tell all these stories of corruption, treason, and betrayal. Coming soon. So that is a really good way to get killed, I must say. Really good way. The three-letter agencies just love that kind of stuff. So, let's hope that the headlines don't happen, but look for him to be disappeared or some tragic car accident happens to him very soon. Let's hope not. I like the guy. I think he's really doing a good job. But man, you cannot come out and start talking about coming soon and put threats out there, because if you know where the bodies are, chances are you're going to become one of the bodies yourself if you're not very careful. That's how these guys work, as you guys know. Second grade math in the 2024 election, as Tina Peters says, the truth matters. Yes, but Tina Peters is in jail now for breaking the law, even though she just upheld the law, and they sort of twisted it into her breaking the law, and now she's in jail in Colorado. Anyway, it says second grade math in the 2024 election. So that's pretty red. If you look at the entire U.S. here, it says Steve Bannon regularly states how the corrupt administrative state needs to be burned to the ground, and then that ground salted like Carthage. That salting would preclude the scourge of embedded corruption from ever growing back. However, in order for Steve's vision to occur, we also need to burn down and salt our entire existing election ecosystem, consisting of electronic machines, electronic poll books, unrestricted mail ballots, meaning mail-in ballots, early voting, late counting, ballot banking, drop boxes, vote by mail, no use of voter ID proof, etc. No kidding. So this is more information about the details that have to do with all of that with regard to the election. So not something that is a surprise to any of us, but probably is for some people. But yeah, truth does matter. It sure does. All right. That was a Gateway Pundit article. And then this is another Gateway Pundit article about Matt Gaetz. Teases possible run for Florida governor. Don't they have one of those? Says Florida former Representative and Attorney General nominee Matt Gaetz teased a possible run for Florida governor. So I thought that was kind of interesting. I don't know why he would be. It says DeSantis' term will end in 2026. So in a couple years, he might run for governor. That's what this is saying. Anyway, yeah. So he's going to, if he can stay alive by naming names, then yeah, he might run for governor of Florida in 2 years. We'll see. That's a Gateway Pundit article. And then this one, Texas Board of Education approves Bible-based curriculum. Mentioned this earlier tonight. On Friday, Texas Board of Education voted to allow Bible-based curriculums in elementary schools in the Lone Star State. In an 8-7 vote, boy, it was close. The Texas Board of Education, which has a Republican majority, passed a measure allowing elementary schools to implement Bible-centered curricula. If schools adopt the new curriculum, they will receive additional funding, which is probably why they're going to adopt it. They'll take the additional funding and probably use it for LGBTQ ABCXYZ training and propaganda. It says Governor Greg Abbott shared in a vote that it was a critical step forward to bring students back to the basics of education and provide the best education in the nation. Anyway, so that is a Gateway Pundit article. And then this one. Big food lobbyists are now discussing how to undermine Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s push for a healthier America. Yeah, I mean, I would think not only big food, but also big pharma, because they don't want people getting healthy, do they? It's bad for business. Lobbyists for the food and agriculture industries are working overtime to undermine RFK Jr.'s push for a healthier America. Outspoken critic of processed foods and additives has been unapologetic in his calls for reform. Yeah, but those in charge do not really like that too much. So there will be a big-time war starting there, too, I'm sure. Yet another war front. Corruption. Arizona Governor Katie Hobbs pays $700,000 in taxpayer money for a new state logo. Director of Tourism caught funneling logo contract to other large contracts to her own company. Isn't that nice? Arizona Governor Katie Hobbs, who stole the 2022 election from Kari Lake, which that's been proven she did, has come under scrutiny once again over state contract decisions after her Office of Tourism awarded a $700,000 contract for a new state logo to a company with close ties to the agency's director. Keeping it all in the family. And the logo is terrible. Not only does it not make sense or have any of the colors typically associated with Arizona or the state flag, copper, red, yellow, navy blue, but it's just hideous. Here is what the Arizona taxpayers paid $700,000 for. There it is, right there. Arizona with some mountains and what appears to be maybe a Native American something and a cactus. Really, really tiny. Yeah. They probably put it into AI and had AI generate it. And then, here's your bill for $700,000. As part of a woke initiative to American Native / Native American / indigenous customs, traditions, values, beliefs, and culture. In other words, their religion. Yeah. But Katie Hobbs has come under fire for her unethical and potentially illegal use of tax dollars. Yes, but she's a Democrat. It's okay when they do it. We already know this. Anyway, I thought that was kind of silly. $700,000 for a really bad logo. I could have done it for half that. All right. I saw this one as well. Obscene, quote unquote, King Charles blasted after a report reveals that his coronation cost $90 million to British taxpayers as the royal family lives a popularity crisis. I would say deservedly so. Keir Starmer's train wreck of a leftist government released a new report. Why would they even put this out? With controversial data on the cost of last year's coronation with Charles. The result is the inevitable controversy that surrounds mostly everything connected to the embattled Windsor family. Yes, but he's about to be the Antichrist, so it's okay. King Charles and Queen Camilla's coronation ceremony last year cost taxpayers more than $90 million. And they didn't even get an Arizona logo out of the deal. But the eye-bugging figure is apparently a bargain compared to the lavish ceremonies held for their predecessors, a new government report revealed. Oh, okay, so again, it's okay when they do it because the previous kings and queens spent even more than $90 million of the taxpayers' money, or whatever the equivalent was in those days. It says the crowning of the new British monarch was broadcast across the globe as thousands of Brits lined the streets. Roughly 100 world leaders, foreign leaders, and celebs watched the grand event in person at London's Westminster Abbey for a not-so-small sum of $63.6 million, according to the annual report published by the government's culture department. Another $27.3 million was added on as security measures and policing. Yeah, but you guys probably saw the video footage of the person in the black robe creeping across the screen once or twice. They let him in, so makes me wonder. Yeah, he does have trillions at his disposal. Yes, but it's called the taxpayer dollars. That's what funded the coronation, apparently. It's not like Charles was paying for it. He wasn't footing the bill. Now for a bit of sad news tonight. Iconic game show host Chuck Woolery passes away at 83. You remember him, right? I didn't know or forgot that he ever hosted Wheel of Fortune, but I guess he did. But Love Connection is what I remember seeing him on way back when. He was the guy that said, be back in 2 and 2. Remember that? Chuck Woolery. What I didn't know was that, well, he won an Emmy. That's kind of odd. But it says Through the 80s and 90s, he continued to captivate audiences with shows like Scrabble and Lingo, solidifying his status as a beloved figure in American television. Beyond his TV career, Woolery was a vocal advocate for conservative values. He was an active supporter of the Republican Party, well, that's too bad, and staunch defender of the Second Amendment. So that's interesting, but he is no longer with us. So that's too bad. Chuck Woolery passes away at 83. The last article from Gateway Pundit is another celeb, although he hasn't passed away, although I think he is beside himself with Trump derangement syndrome. So this is Mark Hamill from Star Wars, still in shock over Trump's massive win, and he's announcing his social media hiatus. So it's a good way to get him off of the Twitter X and whatever else. Mark Hamill, best known for his role as Luke Skywalker, appears to have fallen deep into the clutches of Trump derangement syndrome. Yeah, so he's banned himself from Twitter. Pretty funny. I guess I'm okay with that. I don't know about you guys. Fine by me. Activists post articles. Another one about North Carolina here. We can't get hurricane victims in North Carolina the help they need, but we have $174 billion for the war in Ukraine. Michael Snyder article is what that is. He does good work. And then major cold blast to hit Helene ravaged North Carolina with families living in tents and cars amid FEMA blunder, which it's not a blunder. It's being done on purpose, obviously. And then mysterious drone swarms detected over UK air bases hosting US stealth jets. So that's pretty wild. Government secret UAP program. They're using UFO free energy technology. Another article there. Taxpayer-funded censorship. How government is using your tax dollars to silence your voice. And then, of course, the Terminator robot dog, now equipped with amphibious capabilities. That's all we need, is a dog that can carry a gun and run through water to come kill us all. So, lovely. And then several other articles as well, including Biden administration's legacy of migrant children trafficking. Wow. So some pretty good content here on activistpost.com. And then, not to be, mostly peaceful crowd tore Montreal's streets to pieces last night, and Trudeau was busy attending a Taylor Swift concert. You can see people here. City of Montreal is in complete chaos as anti-Israel rioters go on a rampage. Looks like Canada is getting a mostly peaceful protest treatment. Yeah, they're busting in the windows and lighting stuff on fire. And I thought Canadians were supposed to be polite and friendly. Yeah, well, they're probably not your average Canadian citizen doing this, I don't think. These are probably bust-in Soros combatants, looks like. The protest coincided with the arrival of approximately 300 delegates from NATO member states. So they bust them in. And partner countries attending a high-level summit running from November 22 to 25 in Montreal, focused on Ukraine, climate change, and the alliance's future. The protest also came as the second day of the wave of student-wide pro-Palestinian protests across Montreal. Says, I mean, I don't care for NATO myself, but this is a little extreme. A mob of anti-Israel protesters showed off just how pro-peace they are last night when they took to the streets and protested NATO and Israel, yes, and burned it down. Complete lawlessness in Montreal. Meanwhile, here's what Trudeau was doing. He was bopping to the Taylor Swift show. What a loser. Trudeau wasn't fiddling while Montreal burned. He was attending a Taylor Swift concert while Montreal burned. Anyway, not looking good on the old optics there, Tampon Trudeau. I just realized, yeah, we can go back to calling him Tampon Trudeau. He was sort of being circumvented a little bit there while we had Tampon Tim with Walls, or Tampon Tim Walls with Harris there during those campaign months, but now we can go back to calling Justin Trudeau Tampon Trudeau, because that was his original nickname, at least I gave him. All right, and then speaking of Tampon Trudeau, though, this is saying that the ICC issues arrest warrants for Netanyahu and former defense minister. This is on Israel 365 News. The reason I say Trudeau would be involved in this is because his response to this was kind of interesting. It makes me think that maybe Netanyahu and or Gallant should go for a little vacation in Canada. Why do I say that? Because it says the decision. Well, first of all, let's talk about what happened. The International Criminal Court, ICC, in The Hague announced on Thursday that it has issued arrest warrants for Bibi Netanyahu and former Defense Minister Gallant, sparking immediate condemnation from Israeli officials and U.S. leadership. Yes, they all cried anti-Semitic, is what they said. The court's pretrial Chamber 1 stated that there were reasonable grounds to believe that Netanyahu and Gallant bear criminal responsibility for war crimes and crimes against humanity committed between October 8th, 2023 and May 20th, 2024. I would say it's still ongoing, if you ask me. The charges include using starvation as a method of warfare and intentionally directing attacks against civilian populations. In the same announcement, the court also issued an arrest warrant for Mohammed Deif, the supreme commander of Hamas's military wing, who Israeli Defense Forces reported was killed in an airstrike on July 13th. So they're going to arrest the guy that's already been killed. So figure that one out. But anyways, Biden comes out and says it's outrageous and says that basically it's meaningless. But here's what was interesting to me. The decision has created diplomatic ripples, with some ICC members taking various positions, including Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau stated he would enforce the arrest warrant if Netanyahu arrived in Canada, citing the country's commitment to international law. So all we can do is hope that Bibi Netanyahu decides he really likes hockey and he wants to go watch the Montreal Canadiens play. And he goes to a game on home ice. And then Tampon Trudeau can pounce and have him arrested. Yeah. And Kathy says, I want him arrested so bad I can't see straight. I know, that would be nice. That would be nice. He is a war criminal. And if you've got Biden and company coming out saying how outrageous it is that the ICC did what they did, you know it's true if that's what's going on. So, but I'm really hoping Bibi will instantly start liking ice hockey, so he goes to Canada, watches a game, and gets arrested by Tampon Trudeau. I would like to see that video. I don't know about you guys. Anyway, I just thought that was kind of funny. No, I mean, the truth is, they'll just ignore it like they do everything else. They'll pretend it doesn't exist. Right now, they're saying it's anti-Semitic, but if you ask him in a few more weeks or months, he's just going to say, what ICC? You know, what arrest warrants? So, yeah, it won't matter because they'll just ignore it. And for the holidays here, I wanted to make a special announcement. Now, you can't really actually buy this stuff now, apparently, but I did find this and thought you guys would really like to know about it because it's so festive and wonderful. KFC, you know, formerly Kentucky Fried Chicken, who is no longer Kentucky Fried Chicken, it's just KFC now, launches Christmas wrapping paper that tastes like chicken. It's lickable Christmas wrapping paper. It tastes like chicken. I kid you not. Yeah, and if you go try and buy it on their website, they're out. It says it's finger licking good. KFC's hoping its new holiday product will be on everyone's lips. Literally, the fast food chain has launched lickable wrapping paper for the gifting season. The limited edition paper purportedly tastes like KFC's original recipe chicken with a refreshing hint of cranberry sauce and an aromatic pinch of sage. Coming from the product description. Despite the festive Battle of the Birds at KFC, we believe in chicken. I guess they mean between chicken and turkey. This person says from the brand manager at KFC UK. and Ireland. It says, introducing our first ever lickable wrapping paper inspired by our stuffing stacker burger. KFC warned that the wrapping paper is, quote, not intended for human consumption. So you can lick it all you want. You just can't eat it. But tell that to any dog that smells the paper. Any dogs or, I don't know, maybe some cats out there that are interested in the gifts under the tree this year might be a little more interested than normal, if you know what I mean. I'm sure there's going to be plenty of animals harmed in the Christmas season this year from eating KFC's wrapping paper. Yeah, lickable wrapping paper is a thing. It is, according to this. And this isn't the only site that I found it on, by the way. I did a search and found several places talking about it. So, yes. And if you go to the product description here is kfcshop.co.uk. Now, it may only be available in the UK, but if you go look at that page, it is saying it's out of stock. So they've sold it all already. Anyway, I just thought it was very odd that they're having lickable wrapping paper. You know we're in the end times now. Too crazy. All right. And then a couple of InfoWars articles here. Breaking World War III update. New military alliance formed to block President Trump's plan for a peace deal between Ukraine and Russia. And what he's saying is that there is a secret ongoing discussion from Trump and Musk and company, via video feed and on the audio phone hotline between Mar-a-Lago and Moscow, and that he is desperately trying to make a deal with Putin and Zelensky. Apparently, Zelensky's been in on the calls as well. Of course, leading Biden and company out of it because they don't want peace, they want war. But we'll see what happens. That is kind of interesting that they're trying to do a backdoor deal here and get the World War stopped before it starts. I think it's already started, if you ask me. Hey, Donald, I'm going to leave you a gift in the Oval Office. You'll get a bang out of it. So there he is with his finger hovering just millimeters away from the World War III button. Yep, very accurate. Breaking news says Musk hints at buying both InfoWars and MSNBC in a viral X post. Thought this was kind of funny. Musk hinted at buying both InfoWars and the collapsing MSNBC network. So that would be interesting. Says Autism Capital. Alex Jones is about to have the most interesting twist of fate trade offer. I receive InfoWars, you receive MSNBC. Somebody wants to trade. So we will see. We will see what happens. And this is something that kind of came up, I don't know, maybe a month and a half ago. And I put together a little meme about that. This is the meme that I put together, and I tweeted and tagged Alex in the tweet, and also Elon Musk. No response from any of them, but as you guys know, I'm a graphic designer, so I came up with this idea well before this ever even came up, other than I felt like it'd be funny if Musk stepped in and bought InfoWars, and then we had this whole blow up with the Onion happen and all that other stuff that has all fallen through now. I mean, because it was all done illegally. We covered that last week on this show, but there's my tweet that I put out, this meme that I came up with. Musk has bought Twitter and now InfoWars, and globalists say that. That face, the face that we see all the time. Anyway, too funny. We'll see what actually happens. I'm not so convinced that Musk is going to buy either one, but he might. You just never know. Climate cultists imprisoned for throwing powder on the U.S. Constitution. So it doesn't really matter what's being said here, but I've been in there before. I've been right there where they're standing, and not good. They're dropping red powder all over everything, including themselves, in another disgusting display. Climate activists just ruined the display of the Constitution in the rotunda at the National Archives in D.C. They poured red powder on themselves and all over the display. Security stands around doing nothing until they finally get arrested. Yeah, they're just standing there. She's just got her mask on, wandering around. and then somebody else is standing back to the left back there and doing nothing. Then they decide they probably should finally do something. So they were originally arrested and charged with a felony, but they've now been sentenced to do hard time, according to this. AP notes U.S. District Judge Amy Berman Jackson told Donald Zapata that his attack on the display of the priceless document did nothing to advance his cause. You still think that it was connected to the climate change problem? I can't agree with that, the judge said, handing down a 2-year prison term. So how about that? 2-year prison term. The pair caused $50,000 in damage. Well, I wonder why they don't get out a vacuum and hoover it up. Anyway, yeah, that's pretty wild. That's on modernity.news. I didn't know if you guys knew about the crazy climate cultists. But yeah, they're throwing powder on the U.S. Constitution now. Not that surprising, actually. It's always a mostly peaceful protest. Of course, they would light it on fire if they could. Revealed the Israel lobbyists writing America's News, talking about Mint Press News, recently published an excellent investigative report about how the Israeli lobby controls the U.S. media. So they just republished it here on Vaccine Impact. Have a look at that if you want. The Bewitching of America with the Evil Eye and the Mark of the Beast. So how about that? Talking about the Israeli flag, Great Seal of the U.S., and 666 with the Star of David. So pretty wild. Yeah, it's geared toward the Holy Scriptures and, the Mark of the Beast. So feel free to have a look at that if you want. Might be worth a read. Trouble in Magaland. Marjorie Taylor Greene claims taxpayer funds used to silence victims of sexual abuse so Epstein files, tapes, and recordings and witness interviews never see the light of day. Well, of course, that's how it works. You buy their silence. Body parts of women and children fly through the air as U.S. and Israeli bombs massacre hundreds this past weekend. So again, the criminals are still at it, meaning Netanyahu, etc. So it's definitely not over. Trump on Musk. He won't go home. I can't get rid of him. That's pretty funny. Musk drops out of top 20 on Diablo 243. I don't know what's Diablo. Other than the devil. It's an online game, I guess. Seems fitting. Yep, and then Make Israel Great Again. Zionists preparing to take control of the U.S. under President Trump. Yeah, I know. It's something we've been touching on all broadcasts this time, and I think last time as well. Talking about some of his picks. Marco Rubio, Kristi Noem, and Pete Hegseth, Mike Walls, RFK Jr., Elise Stefanik. So, yeah. And then, let's see. I mentioned these last week's show. So, yeah, those are all the Vaccine Impact headlines. Some pretty good ones on there, and feel free to have a look at that. I was going to mention this as well. This is one of my clients and good friends, Mr. Bart Sabrell. I think I mentioned him last week in a different way. We were talking about a interview, or actually it was just a short podcast that Mike Adams from Natural News did, mentioning Bart and talking about the moon landing fraud. Of course, that's what Bart is known for, is his discussion on the moon landing fraud from a filmmaker's perspective. He's done a lot of really good work over the years on this. And what I wanted to mention was we have added a new book to the website here. He already had this one, Aliens from Planet X. This is something that we added some months back as he was a guest on the Joe Rogan podcast. We got this one up and running earlier in the spring this year, Aliens from Planet X, new book by Bart Sabrell, pretty new. It came out in the spring this year. But this is the brand new one that I wanted to mention, The Great Earth Hoax. This is the first, at least the first one we know about, the first book about conspiracy-related things for kids. So I was just mentioning this in case anybody out there wants an idea for a good kids-oriented Christmas gift. It's a book for, I think we're selling it for $19.99. Of course, that money doesn't go to me. It goes to Mr. Bart here for being the author of the book. You can see the names there, Bart Sabrell, and illustrations by Chris Chelena. And yeah, it was really, really well illustrated. It's called The Great Earth Hoax. World's first conspiracy book for children. Bart Sabrell's The Great Earth Hoax, about the moon people faking a trip to Earth because of political pressure and government corruption within their society. Written by Bart Sabrell, author of Moon Man, true story of a filmmaker on the CIA hit list, and the director of the film Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Moon, which both expose the sad fact that the Apollo moon mission was filmed at Cannon Air Force Base a year beforehand. The Great Earth Hoax illustrates this historical revelation and concept for children with hilarious drawings and rhyming verses. Bart Sabrell is world-renowned as the revealer of the moon landing fraud and has been featured in Time Magazine, New York Times, Washington Post, USA Today, HBO, NBC, CNN, Fox, Geraldo, The Daily Show, Coast to Coast, InfoWars, and The Joe Rogan Experience. So there it is. I just wanted to mention that. It's a really good book. I put it together completely. I didn't do the illustrations. That was done by Mr. Chelena here. That's mentioned on the cover. But I took all the pieces and put them together in final form. It's a paperback. And yeah, it turned out really, really well. We're really happy with it. And it's called The Great Earth Hoax. So again, just mentioning it in case anybody is in the market for a kid's gift that has a lot of truth in it. A lot of truth. It's approached from the standpoint of the moon people fake a trip to planet Earth. So it's kind of the reverse of what actually happened, but pretty wild. And I will say one more thing here, one other little bonus bit of information that no one knows except for me and Bart and maybe one or two other people. I'll tell you guys. And that is, I came up with the idea to have the kids, the moon kids, have full moon heads. So full moon shaped heads, and the adults to have half moon shaped heads, crescent shaped heads, because I felt like, okay, if the kids are born, they're born innocent and they have full moon heads, and as you age and get more propagandized, you lose your brain power. Therefore, you have the crescent moon shaped head. So I presented that idea to Bart after I read the book, and he's like, oh man, that's a great idea. And it's one of his favorite things about the book now, actually. So I take full credit for that. So thank you very much. No, I'm just joking. But he really liked the idea, and that's the way the illustrations all came out. So the the adults in the book all have crescent-shaped half moon heads, and the kids all have full moons. That's why. Now you know. Anyway, yeah, The Great Earth Hoax. I always wanted to mention it. It's really really well done book. And here it is on Amazon. It is there available, and you can find it from Sabrell.com. It just links right over to it. Click order, and you can order it from there, and the money all goes to Amazon and to Mr. Bart, not to me. So anyway, I just wanted to mention it because I figured you guys might be in the market for some really good Christmas gifts, or whatever, anytime gifts. All right, GeoWatch for this week. We have Mr. Dane talking about manufacturing holiday weather. Bomb cyclone pummels Northern California with heavy snow and record rain, knocks out power for hundreds of thousands in Seattle. Atmospheric river dumps snow and record rain on California. Whiteout traffic nightmare in Northern California. Wild weather headlines just in time for the holidays, exactly what the controllers and the climate engineers seek to create. The resulting difficult holiday travel instills an even deeper impression on populations. Is global conflict the next card to be played as geoengineering operations and biosphere collapse? Is it becoming impossible to hide? Latest installment of Global Alert News is below. So there you go. That is GeoWatch Global Alert News for November 23rd, which was yesterday, and make sure you have a listen to that. I will mention that let's see. This week, the radio version was the shortened version. The YouTube version is the full version. So if you're wanting to listen to the full version of this show, the one that's on Spotify is actually the radio version, the short one. So listen to the YouTube one this week if you haven't already heard it, because that is the full one. There's about an extra 5 minutes or so in the full version on YouTube. So pretty wild. And I would also mention that Mr. Dane, who, again, another good friend and client of mine, known him for years, his YouTube channel was completely demonetized over the last week or so. So there you go. Welcome to YouTube, right? Of course, my channel on YouTube has never been monetized, but that's because, number one, I don't qualify, and number two, if I did, they wouldn't let me do it anyway. So that's why you don't ever see any commercials on my YouTube channel. There are some that run on Rumble, but I don't add those. Those are Rumble inserts those. So those come from the Rumble side. YouTube has no ads. If you ever see any ads on my videos on YouTube, I am not the one inserting them. It may be on YouTube's end. I've seen an ad here or there pop up, but it's usually in relation to maybe a piece of music that I've used or something like that. But in general, my YouTube channel is not monetized, never has been, never will be, because it won't be allowed. And now Mr. Dane is demonetized as well on YouTube. So there you go. Welcome to freedom of the speech. Freedom of speech in the U.S. has now been demonetized, at least on YouTube. All right, and then we mentioned this earlier. This is the November 30th to December 4th scheduled weather, but you can see it's going to be pretty chilly in the east, which is what they really like to do this time of year. Don't be surprised if there's some major snowstorms either. I mean, I'm just guessing. Why not? They can chemical ice nucleate and create these snowstorms not out of nothing. They do need moisture to be able to do it, but they do that by bringing it up from the Gulf. So if they can find a way to get that moisture up out of the Gulf, they will chemically ice nucleate and cool down the eastern half of the U.S. That's what they've been doing for years at this point. And people just think, oh, we're just having a normal, natural winter. No, it's all geoengineering and manipulated. So that's the way it is these days, but most people don't recognize that, of course. All right, and then let's see. I think that was the end of the articles for tonight. Yep, it is. So we are back around to Substack. Please support me by following along on Substack. You can do that for free if you want. You just type in your email address and hit subscribe. And the other thing I wanted to mention is Subscribestar. We are, as of last week's show, we were at 4. Let me refresh. We were at 4 subscribers last week. And this week we are still at 4 subscribers. So thank you, 4 people. You know who you are, but I can't access any of the funds until I have 5 subscribers on there. That is not my rule. That is a Subscribestar rule. When you sign up and have a creative outlet here using Subscribestar as a mechanism to be able to bring funds in, which is what I'm trying to do here a little bit, is I just signed up with them pretty recently, and they have a limit on you have to be able to get to at least 5 subscribers before, number one, they'll pay you anything that you've collected, and number two, to kick in the ongoing monthly payments so that their system bills subscribers each month for however much they've signed up for. Right now, it's a manual process. So for the people that have signed up, again, you know who you are, and thank you very much. The people who have signed up have to actually literally manually go in and click the payment thing each month. Otherwise, their system won't bill them because I'm not to the 5 subscriber bottom line there. So we're at 4. So I would just ask that if somebody out there wants to step up, that would certainly help me out a whole lot. And notice there were no commercials in this show. I don't run any commercials. I'm not selling you gold and silver, and I'm not selling you water purification systems, and I'm not selling you aquaponics, and I'm not selling you any of that stuff. So if you want any of that, that's fine. Go watch another show. You won't find it here. I plan on leaving this show as unencumbered as possible as far as advertising goes. So, but what that means is if you like this show, please support what I'm doing, because that's how I have to fund it. Otherwise, it's just coming out of my pocket, which, is fine to a certain degree, but I'm almost 3 years in on this show now. I'm actually over 3 years. Starting November 1st, 2021 is when I started this broadcast. So, yeah, so we are just past the 3-year anniversary, actually, and going strong. So we're trying to build an audience, and that takes money, obviously. It takes funds to be able to promote and do things. I had somebody reach out to me earlier in the week. Hopefully it will evolve into something, but talking about, had some ideas for marketing, so we're going to kind of talk and see what we can do as far as promoting the show. So anyway, yeah, this show will be available on the various platforms tomorrow at some point in full. The uncensored version of this show will be available on not on YouTube tomorrow, but it will be available on Rumble and BitChute and Brighteon, and also back on Facebook tomorrow. And then those channels are Diamond Disc on all of those different platforms. So Diamond Disc on Rumble and BitChute and Brighteon. And it's you can just do a search for the Diamond Report, or just put in DIAMONDISC, and that takes you right to it. So there you go. And then the YouTube version of this show will be available. Of course, I'm live on the channel right now, but after we stop the broadcast tonight, I'm going to have to delete this because I mentioned the you-know-whats, and so forth. So I have to, yeah, Doug sells the truth for free. Yeah, I do sell it for free. That's right. That's a good way to put it. But yeah, the broadcast tonight will end up being back on YouTube, but I have to go in and remove all of that medical misinformation. That takes time, takes money, takes all that stuff to make this show work. So thank you guys very much for supporting the show. And you can do that through Substack or through Subscribestar, either one. Certainly appreciate that. And then, of course, we have the wonderful store as well. We've got a number of different products and different ways to support the show that way as well. I've got the Conspiracy Analyst hoodies and hats, and the Diamond Report logo on various things like mugs and stickers, and even a pillowcase and shirts. Lots of different T-shirts and different designs. We've got end times dates on here as well. And then my music company, Diamond Disc Audio. So sold a few of the products from the store. There've been a person here or two here and there that have bought various items from there. I bought a few myself just to see what kind of quality they are, and they're really good quality. Here's a couple of stickers that I bought, and then here is the Diamond Disc Audio mug. I've shown that before on here. The quality of the items are very good. So anyway, just thought I would mention that. If you guys want to support what I'm doing, that's another way to do it, and I really, really appreciate that very much. Let's take a look at the Diamond Report on X. This is my account on there. It's the Diamond RPRT, the Diamond Report on X. And let's see, some of the top tweets here that I have reposted and or posted myself. This one says, for many people, this is a serious issue that still needs to be addressed. This is the whole stuff that has been touted and pushed by Trump and company. So this particular tweet says, I don't know who is helping you with your nomination picks or who is writing them out for @real Donald Trump, but you probably should have left this part out. A lot of us voted for you, but we never approved of your operation. It's probably something you should apologize for. I agree. I think he does need to come out and apologize, but he doesn't seem to be doing that, and I don't really expect that he will. But that would be nice. And then I saw this one earlier today as well and retweeted it. Just remember, never bad enough to shut down the border. Amen to that. And then Steve Kirsch has tweeted earlier today, wow, Trump's pick for Surgeon General was in favor of censorship and however, she has changed her views in 2022 and is now so that's according to what Steve Kirsch is saying. But he's still saying it's a bad pick. So I don't know. I tend to agree. And I tweeted this as well. The de-evolution of Rachel Maddow. I know a lot of people out there say that she was a guy. Well, she does look like a guy now, but she didn't look like a guy back then in 1990. So it's very interesting. She went from this to this in 4 years, and it's just devolved ever since. So, not good. Let's see here. Alex Stein 99 tweeted to Elon Musk, "Can you please explain to us peasants why your rockets can't go past low Earth orbit, but the Apollo missions did it 6 times in the 1970s?" Calling him out. Way to go. Too funny. Anyway, there are some interesting things I find to tweet and retweet. I mentioned Tom Hanks earlier. Well, there he is. The Epstein Island Loyalty Rewards Program. There it is in full swing. You got Hanks, Bill Clinton, Bill Gates, Ellen DeGeneres, and Oprah. All getting their loyalty rewards from the Epstein Island program. Yeah, I've found some interesting 9/11 things lately as well. I'm not sure why now necessarily, but retweeted those and some interesting things for sure. So definitely follow along on Twitter X if you're on there. If you're not on there, you probably should be, because there's some interesting things on there for sure. Some good things. You know, even if you're not a Musk supporter, I do think that he has really freed up that system from the way it was, from Twitter 1.0. I really think the newer version of it seems to be way better. It's not perfect, but no platform is. So let me see what you guys are saying. Janice or Giannis says, "Thank you for another excellent show. Sorry I slept in this morning." Oh, I'm glad you did. I'm glad they watched the whole report again as soon as it's uploaded. Yeah, it'll be uploaded tomorrow at some point. So tomorrow my time. I'm not sure where you are. I think you're in the Eastern Bloc, right? You're way out there. Anyway, but yeah, that will be available tomorrow, and be watching for that. Otherwise, yeah, I guess we'll call it a night tonight. We are coming up on 1 a.m. here. It's getting kind of late. So let's see if you guys have any other questions for me before we go. If you do, feel free to leave them in all caps so I don't miss them. Otherwise, I'll probably scroll right by it. Kathy saying she's tried to subscribe several times to Subscribestar. It said, "My email does not exist." Okay, well, that's a Subscribestar issue. I will help you go through that if you're still interested in doing that. So yeah, let me look into that. Yeah, join band and we can stay in touch that way. That's free as well. band.us/@the-diamond-report. That's my band setup, and that looks like this. Band is a really good platform. I did not invent it. Been some rumors out there that I came up with it. No, I just found it. It's a really good one. Actually, a friend of mine let me know about it, but they don't do any censoring, which is why I do like Band. It's very much like, it's a layout similar to Facebook, only it works better in my opinion, and there's no censorship, which is really good. So yeah, this is where it is. It's band.us and then put it /@the-diamond-report. So 88 members and holding strong there. So anyway, feel free to join Band if you want, and make sure you're on the Substack list. I mentioned that earlier. And Subscribestar, for somebody step up and help me out here so we can get to 5 at least. That would be awesome. But anyway, yeah, we'll see what I can find out for Miss Kathy here as far as that goes. So what else are you guys saying? Yeah, we talked about the crazy wrapping paper. Yeah, if you missed that, then you really have to see the full video later on when we talk about lickable wrapping paper. That's how, in my opinion, that's how you prove we're in the end times. That's all you need to know. No, I'm just joking. Doug should try dark mode browser, and my eyes start, because the eyes start getting tired for a while after all the brightness. Okay. Yeah. You're talking about dark mode as far as the pages that I show you. Yeah, okay, well, I'll look into that. I might be able to do that on the browser. I'm using Opera here, so I'm not real sure. I can try and see what I can find out. Anyway, yeah, thank you guys for being here tonight. I certainly appreciate that, and for hanging out with me for these going on 3 hours. And we'll do it again next week. We are going to be into December, so I hope you guys have a really great holiday this week in the U.S. We have Thanksgiving. Very important to give thanks every day, actually, if you ask me, but we have a special day set aside for that, and hopefully you guys will be with family and able to do that this week. And yeah, coming up on Thursday. So we are almost there already, and it's going to be December 1st before we know it, and that will be full scream ahead into the holiday season. And That's the next live broadcast. Will be December 1st, 10 p.m. Central U.S. time. So we will see you guys then. And I got one more video tonight. We'll end with this. It's called "You Can't Say We Didn't Warn You." So God bless you guys. I hope you have a blessed Thanksgiving and are able to spend it with friends and family. And if not, just make the best that you can out of it. And, if you're not traveling or if you have family who are no longer with us or whatever the case may be, there's so many strange variables out there. But I just pray that you have a blessed holiday with family or friends or both or whatever it happens to be. And I know we will. We've got family stuff that we're going to be doing, people here locally. And I would ask that you guys pray for, before we go, pray for my wife's first cousin, Josh, who was in a horrific skiing accident, believe it or not, just yesterday. Not in Tennessee. No, he wasn't in Tennessee. He was in, let's just say, in the Northwest, and was in a terrible skiing accident. So I would pray that you guys also lift Josh up in your prayers and ask for healing, because, man, I don't know exactly the details that happened, but I do know he smashed his head on a rock, and I do know he fell down several cliffs. But he is apparently conscious, and I don't know if he's able to carry on conversations or not, or even get up and move, but I do know that he had some fractures and things like that, obviously. So just ask that you guys say a prayer for Mr. Josh. He's a friend of mine. I've known him for many years. He's a good man. He loves the Lord, and he has a wonderful family as well. So just pray for him if you don't mind. Lift him up, and certainly would appreciate that. I know my wife would as well. So love you guys. Hope you have a blessed week, and more in particular, have a blessed Thanksgiving. And we'll see you guys back here on December the 1st. We'll do it again then. Blessings all.